So please go on ahead. I'm pretty sure it could go like by little, okay? So, are you guys ready? This is not the real thing. I'm not gonna keep you guys waiting, okay? Are you guys ready? Let me hear it one more time. Are you guys ready? Yeah! Alright, okay, for our first speaker, let me just switch my script. There we go. Okay, so we all know that the first step to any creative content direction, and what is our first, what is this happening right here? We all know that the first step to anything creative content is that we have to do creative direction. This is the first from conceptualizing to thinking of an idea, and that is what our first speaker is brilliant at. So our first speaker is Ogilvy and Matters, Philippines' first digital copywriter and engagement planner hybrid. Carl Garcia knows what it takes to lead a team and deliver compelling stories. He's been championing international and national competitions ever since 2015, and his passion just seeps through his work. Please welcome our first speaker, Carl Garcia.
Hello. So I've been with Ogilvy for half a decade now, but then I've recently moved to BBDO. That's why right now I'm a senior creative at BBDO Guerrero. Whenever we think of creative direction, when I was told to do a creative direction talk, it's important to talk about what is the creative or what is creativity. So when you click on the slide, the creative is really this strange occupation that's both adjective and noun. You're pressured to act as one, you're pressured to act as someone who is creative or described to be one, but at the same time it's also your profession to be a creative. And so more often than not, they're not both. When you think of the creative, there can be a long line of lists of different people. Like for example, a creative could be an innovator, like Elon, or like a singer, an artist, or self-proclaimed creative like Kanye. It could be a cartoonist like Walt Disney, a businessman like him, or even the father of advertising like David Ogilvy. It could even go way back to like Michelangelo, like an art-based creative, or even philosophers like Socrates think in a creative way, or see life in a creative way. But all of these things have changed through the years, and creativity is many different things now. But it all started off as a thought that creative is divine inspiration. And the Greek once thought of it as someone that's bestowed on you. So for example, Socrates imagined creativity as coming from demons, or like this guardian angel that whispers to you a creative thought. It didn't really come from humans, and that's why people assume that, oh, it's out of this world, it's beyond the human perception. It's something that's bestowed, it's something that no one can really see. The Romans had a different word for it and called it genius. That there's this beyond the human person that they pray to or that they venerate that provides you that sense of creativity. So all of this is also creativity. Creativity doesn't really come from the self, it comes from way beyond, something that like art directors, copywriters will have to pray on that something great comes along by 12 noon deadline. And that could also be, that is what creativity could also be. So here's a sample ad from BBH about getting inspiration from something beyond the human.
Beneath my feet, my private earthquake registered Nate. Susan Glenn was near.
So what's interesting about this ad, I got to talk to the strategic planner behind Axe. This was a time when Axe was moving towards that usual ad wherein you have this man and all women who want to go to him or want to get attracted to the guy. But then Axe started moving more inwardly, in that it's also an internal struggle. That what if there's just the one that he always wanted, and how could he attract the one if he had no confidence to have, like for example, Axe a good smelling armpits to approach is the one, Susan. So creativity could be like that. It's beyond human. But at the same time, many years later, creativity became a science. Creative is not something beyond people. On the next slide. Next. People felt years later in the Renaissance that the center of it all was man. And that it's from us, it's from humans, where creativity comes from or stems from. Next slide. So here's a little bit about something more scientific that we did back in Ogilvy for Vaseline, that creativity could also be a science. What's interesting with this campaign, when we were creating it, the client asked us just really, how do we show that there's a difference when you use Vaseline or not? And so we had to figure out in what different way we could present it, and all we had was a billboard media placement. And we figured out that maybe we could test it out on something that also gets as much exposure as skin, and it could be leaves. So again, it was something we had to test out. It was something we had to experiment on before we could reach a creative work such as this. So more on the science of creative. Next slide. It's said that evolution initially designed our brains to shape and interpret the world using story templates. So when you're thinking of creative, you put it in a way that's understandable, and that's through stories. Storytelling involves the brain's dopamine reward system, and it's this reward system that transmits with the rest of the brain activity like eating chocolate, or laughing, or patting a dog, or even watching a good ad. And that's how you can identify if something's creative. Something in your brain is telling you, you get pleasure from it. Something in you that feels like, oh, it's exciting, it's scary, it makes you feel sad, and it's all within the brain. Next. Next slide. So more about this brain. This ad is, by the way, also from Ogilvy for The Economist. And what's great about this print ad is that it's subtle placement of their logo in between, and the thought that if you read The Economist, you're that kind of person, the brain. So it's also interesting to note that when creativity is processed by the brain, it's really the frontal lobes, it's really more of the decision making and the conscious thought are not directly connected to the brain. Meaning, first off, what attracts the brain to creative is really more of the senses first. Meaning your sense of smell, your sense of touch. That part of the brain is activated first for you to know if something is creative. So that's why when you're creating creative work, or to determine if something is creative, you need to know if it attacks all of the senses. Does it awaken you? Does it make you feel something? Is it sensory? And that's how the brain activates and makes you feel for it. Next slide. But then now that we're getting into emotions, creativity jumps off from a science and now delves into the emotion, or it's an orchestration of emotion. For example, this ad by Condomania by Hakuhodo Japan created an idea wherein maybe you could wrap around a condom, for example, or a plastic rubber over a couple and make it show like that's kind of the love that's protected. So it's from this heart wherein creativity also touches. If you feel for it, you know it's creative. If it touches the heart, it is creative. But then how do you feel for it? Next slide. The heart of the power of story or creativity lies perhaps in the mind's greatest trick, which is empathy. And in empathy, it's that part of you that makes you, or it's part of you that activates to make you feel like, oh, I understand. And they're activated by something in the brain called mirror neurons. So that's why killing off Bambi's mom, or killing off Carl's wife in Up, or setting Butterfree free in Pokemon are all different ways to latch on the feelings of people and feel like, okay, I get this, I'm buying into this. Next slide. Here's one ad from Leo Burnett, or one activation that they did, which uses emotion in a particular way. So this ad, or this concept, was created for special children, House of Special Children, and other than the use of emotion, what's also great about is the fact that there's a deep understanding of human behavior and how people would react to things. Same, as mentioned a while ago, it's your part of your brain that tells you, I empathize with this person. And that's why I feel like, oh, if it's someone special, I need to treat them in a certain way. But the message of the entire thing is that there's no difference, whether they're special or they're not. They're all human, they all deserve a chance. On the next slide, just yesterday, TBWA here in the Philippines won gold for a particular film in Cannes. So this week, Cannes Lion is happening, the biggest award for advertising industry. And TBWA of the Philippines took it home for this one, also using emotion.
He was warm, he came around like he was dignified. He showed me what it was to cry. What couldn't be what's your face? And I know this is how I feel. Holding out your strength, lying naked on the floor. Illusion never changed into something real. I can see the perfect dinosaur.
This ad again is about something in the way that itself is something that shouldn't happen. It also created a craft space, authentic. It makes you feel like the real design of the children, how it's very out there to reveal something. And music. It uses song in different ways, telling the story about how it's supposed to be a loving relationship with the family, but then it's shown as different or in a more sexualized way. On the next slide. So all of that is creativity. Creativity is divinely inspired, design, and something in the way. But in how to do that, what is it? And in the art industry, it's really these guys in the next slide. If you've seen Mad Men, it's the entire agency, it's the art directors, the creative directors, the everyone in the team is the one that builds or creates creatives. But way back to Mad Men time, beyond the humanizing the ending, this is now the creative in the next slide. This is from LIA, London International Art Festival, and over there in the Green Channel. And this is when they were deciding on which campaigns the award for the year. And it's a mix of different people from different countries. Creatives can now come in different forms, they can come in as young people with different backgrounds, and people in different ways. Next. But then usually, creatives are always just thought, oh, the Photoshop guy, or the guy just does stuff on Word. The pair, the art director and the copywriter, these guys know these two biggest tools. But beyond just knowing how to use Photoshop or writing, the creative team is really, next slide, the people who find it invisible. They're the people who really think through to figure out what are the things that people don't see. Or even if it's there, even if it's so invisible, it really is there. It's unseen and it's called insight. It's figuring out a human behavior. It's including understanding humans and figuring out if you behave in this way, or if you find a particular insight, it will be shown in a whole new different way. And that's also good. For a copywriter, this is how it works. It's the leverage of language to communicate to an audience, to communicate to the work. Other than that, it's the wise use of these tools. For example, the rigor of knowing that there's no leverage element, or the fact that we can go beyond tools and use emotion as a way to communicate and use language, even click on the next. Anything that evolves. Because that's what language and communication is. It needs to evolve, and creativity also needs to evolve. It's the kind of use it in our original so much has changed all the way back when I thought I was all the language and the read isn't something. The writer of Still an Artist will say, read does nothing new, create everything already exists, systematic, getting things that have spread from different things, transforming into a new thing. Of course, in the scale, it's not inside the slave driver problem. No one can stealing means together inspiration. For this next campaign, and why not, we stole from its own competitor, creative own.
Whopper. McWhopper. McWhopper. Proceeds will benefit the nonprofit called Peace One Day.
The letter concludes, we put together McWhopper.com, which details the proposal.
Corporate activation on this scale creates mass awareness.
We've designed a proposed pop-up restaurant, packaging, even the staff uniforms.
Social media is diving out on McWhopper. It's everywhere.
And you gotta love this. Burger King has extended the olive branch in McD's own backyard.
Sadly, McDonald's CEO makes the idea.
We love the intention, but think our two brands could do something bigger to make a difference. P.S. A simple phone call will do next time.
McDonald's! And if you're looking to make McWhopper a reality, you'll just have to take matters into your own hands. Take thousands of do-it-yourself McWhoppers have been created and shared on social media.
How many think you will taste that?
Why is it a real thing?
This is the first time I've ever been a voice. I'm going to listen to the maximum.
Someone else's trouble, someone else's trouble. Leads collide.
Yeah.
When leads collide.
That's how what is our canvas? Where is it? Because now there's more to the story, there's more to the story. And there are more canvases, now there's more digital canvases. Digital canvases. Right now, we want to be inspired with achieving things many different ways. 2004, all the companies said that every almost every other year something new channel to be for us. For example, in Facebook, there are very enough Facebook is very We were thinking of KFC when we wanted to make sure that people understand Junior Day. We had to find a way so that people will notice it. It shouldn't be just another page post or just another ad. What if we change the name? And when you change your name, people will come to notice. Disruption, you're competing for the most important space, and that's the space in between people's ears. Second, it should have emotion. All decisions are emotional decisions. Third, it should have suspension. Mystery drives interest, just like as we mentioned about empathy and about how storytelling activates your dopamine. You have to find a way to bait your audience as if they're expecting something from it. Fourth, it should have attention without a problem, without something that you're solving. Even in a small TVC or TV commercial, there's nothing in it that people will have to figure out or have to cling on to. Next, it should have conversation. You have to make people feel like they have a stake in it. Or if the audience have nothing to say, then they'll easily click on or move on to the next ad. And finally, it should be persuasive, or there should be persuasion. And more often than not, the manner trumps the matter. If you say it in an interesting way, people will take notice. But of course, something David Ogilvy would always say, and then click on the next. But you can't sell a bad product. No matter how much you persuade something, but if your product, if the thing that you're trying to do a creative workaround sucks, it will always suck. Next. So this is the most awarded campaign of all time, and it's from Macau.
Young people don't listen to public safety messages. So how do you get them to stop being unsafe around trains? By making it the dumbest way to die.
So many dumb ways to die. Dumb ways to die. So many dumb ways to die.
A song was written called Dumb Ways to Die. It was released as a YouTube video and within a week had over 20 million views and coverage on every television network in the country. A dedicated Tumblr site generated huge and immediate viral effect. Within days, Dumb Ways to Die became the world's most shared video. The song was released on iTunes and climbed the charts in over 20 countries, making its way onto playlists everywhere. Radio advertising was purchased, but this song about rail safety was so popular, radio stations played it for free. Awareness went through the roof, but we had to get people to change their behaviour. So every element of the campaign directly drove people to pledge to be safe around trains. Nearly 1 million people took the pledge on our website. The little book of Dumb Ways to Die asked for kids to take the pledge. Outdoor advertising got people to promise to be safe and generated Instagram-friendly content. A smartphone game also got people to make the promise. And at train stations, a karaoke version of the song played while posters visually reinforced the message. The results? People adopted the rail safety message like never before. Over 200 cover versions were made. Schools started using it as a teaching tool in classrooms. Dumb Ways to Die became the most shared public service campaign in history. And most important of all, the Metro has seen a 21% reduction in accidents and deaths compared to the same time last year.
Be safe around trains, a message from Metro.
So, in creating this kind of campaign, next slide, honestly, all they needed to do was to create a stay behind the yellow line or create a sign that people don't have to jump off to. But why would you want to stop there? Creativity is the idea where you need to keep going beyond the line. You have to make sure that you have to do something more interesting than just telling people not to jump over, like the next slide. You would definitely rather create something like this than to have something just like a sign that says, don't do something stupid, be careful around trains. Next. So in these last few slides, when you're thinking about being creative or thinking of creating something that's beyond the usual, you have to be an artist to make good advertising, to make good campaigns, to make good work even. Next. But then it begs the question, is advertising even an art? Next. This is a poem by a famous poet, and it goes something like this. If we watch their lips smile, singing the same lullaby they've sung 1,000 times. If we watch their arms wrapped around babies' backs and cradles weave from pads and palms, we might realize how beautiful our mothers' bodies are. If we watch their thighs stride down streets, push strollers, praying ponderously, or the tiptoes of their feet as they sneak in and kick off sheets. When all their body longs for is one hot coffee, we might realize how beautiful a mother's skin can be. And if we watch their laps gallop horses around a thousand laughing playtime tracks, their backbones arcing, climbing frames and hold up tired piggybacks, as a mother hugs feels like the touch they never want to give away, we might realize the beauty that our mothers' bodies make. And as days fades to night again, smiles hiding weeps because they have not stopped for weeks and weeks. Fingers stuck in baby sheets, their lips moving forward, sealing children's dreams with one last kiss. you might realize how beautiful a mother's body is. This is a poem, and it existed as a poem, but then an agency thought of getting it and became a radio ad. Click, and it's now an ad for dog, which won the can. So that's also creativity. I mean, it could exist in an art form, it could exist in a creative space, in a corporate space. So is advertising taking up or controlling art? Well, it's up to who views it. Next. So creativity, in the end, at least in our industry, is really about problem solving. Next. And it's really figuring out, for example, given the problem, how do you stop people from jumping off trains or getting stupid around trains? From there, and making it come to something like this. So here's a campaign that we thought of to solve a particular problem. Next.
Yung mga bata natin ngayon, mas mahilig sila sa junk foods. Tapos yung sa mga noodles, like that. When it comes to yung baseball, parang ayaw sila.
Ayon sa pag-aaral ng FNRI, nasa pinakamababang antas na ang pagkain ng gulay ng mga Pilipino sa loob ng 30 taon.
So if you think about creativity as a way to solve problems, then anyone can be creative. It's just really about pushing it to a whole new different level.
Once again, Kit Kat Paharo!
There you go. So I'm gonna talk about myself first before teaching you guys anything. So I'm Kit Kat Paharo. Does this still work? Oh, parang no. Okay. Okay, so a little bit more about myself. I'm 22 years old. I'm a portraits, lifestyle, fashion, events, and music photographer. These are my signs. I'm a Pisces, a Taurus, Gemini, Sun, Moon, Rising. And then I'm an ENFP. Okay, so what's in my bag? This is usually what I bring when I go to shoots. Here's my gear. I only use a Canon 80D. And then I have an 18 to 35 1.8, an 85 1.8, and the 30mm 1.4. I don't know if you understood those numbers, but I hope you do. Anyway, so I have a flash also, and then a trigger. Then my phone, ID, and then my makeup. So my gear isn't that fancy. As you can see, I just bring like a backpack whenever I'm shooting. So next slide, please. So here are some of the titles that I've worked with. Youngstar, Youngstar, this is Jesus, you know him. Paul Sprouse, Youngstar. Next, preview, yes, CNN pa rin, Mega, and slideshow lang siya. Love Estiel, Rogue, The Neighborhood, Garage, and Mundo, I think that close na. Brands I've worked with, Fred Perry, Balenciaga, Universe, Bench, Paul Smith, and Orville and Wilbur. Now, may productions I've shot at din pala there. Good Vibes, MTV Evolution, there, go lang. 88 Rising, Wonderland, there, and, okay, go lang, and within the budget. So it's time to start my talk. So here's the career journey. They actually asked me about it. So next slide, please. My career journey actually started with rejection. I was a second-year college student and I applied for our school's publication paper, which is the Gaidon. I'm from Ateneo. And I also applied for this online magazine called Stash. And then, sabay ko siya in-apply, and then I got rejected from both. So sabi ko, oh my God, masakit ma-reject. And I was like, okay, maybe it means that I wanted to take it seriously because it hurts, diba? So after that, I was like, okay, I'm gonna build on my portfolio, work on it, and apply again. But I never applied again. I just looked for different avenues to put my work out. So I applied for Shutter Panda, if you guys know them. They're actually called Atlas now. So I entered there for a couple of months, and then afterwards, they absorbed me, and I've been shooting with them ever since. So since I've been shooting for Shutter Panda, we actually do like a lot of things. Like we do that's where the practice comes in. Like we did weddings, we did baptisms, first birthdays, 40th anniversaries. We did everything. So that's where I practiced like how to shoot and all the technical stuff and doing photography. And then after that, when I got a hold of like doing the technical stuff, I did the trial and error wherein I was looking for what my niche was, like what kind of photography did I really want to do. Like, did I want to do weddings, did I want to do portraits or fashion or music and everything. And I realized that I want to do all that. And mostly people is like the main thing that I shoot. Mapa, fashion one, or portraits, or music. It's all people, and I just want to tell their stories. So, yeah. Then after that, experimenting, it comes with like looking for what kind of photography you want to do. Like for example, when I'm editing, like for photography, there's no really standard way to do it. Like it's a very personal thing. Like for you, how you shoot and how you edit, it's very personal. There's no the technical stuff. It's just like a formality. The best thing to learn, the best way to learn is through experimenting. For example, when I'm editing, the coloring, everything is wild at first, and then if I don't like it, I just tone it down. So it's just a matter of experimenting with the curves and everything. So yeah, next. Personal style, next slide. I actually didn't impose on a personal style, as I suggest you shouldn't do. What you should do is you should make it come to you naturally. For me, my preference has always been something very high contrast, na medyo soft pa rin. Hindi rin ako okay with the photos, that I wanted something very like, subtle and soft, everything. As you can see, this is actually my IG feed. Tapos screenshot ko lang siya. Pinagtabi, di ba? And then, there, you can just see na parang, it's mostly people talaga what I shoot. Like, I do spaces rin, but mostly kulang pa rin siya. Parang hinahanap ko yung mukha, yung kwento, yeah. So that's it. Next, please. Dealing with criticism. Pero actually sa akin to. Anyways. To be honest, hindi pa ako nakapag-deal with like parang online hate or something. Which is, I think, a great thing. Kasi hindi ko lang kaya mo. Anyway. Pero of course, like if you have clients, like they'll have comments with your work. Kasi syempre you're representing the brand, you're shooting for the brand. So it's good that you understand what they're going for. So whenever they ask for revisions, parang okay, your work is kind of too, it's not in line with the brand, or it's too dark, it's too bright. So parang that's wherein you get to learn na parang when you're shooting for clients, it's good to talk before you actually shoot so that you know parang you know the direction or the mood of the shoot na you want to do. And may iwasan natin yung revise tayo ng revise afterwards. So it's good to do your research before shooting. So ayan. So next please. Collaborating. All of the people I collaborated, I found them online lang. As in Instagram. Parang there was this time, someone messaged me, they were like, oy, meron na kaming team, like meron na stylist, may shoot na, whatever. We only need a photographer. Are you game? And I was like, okay, let's do it. Tapos pumunta na kami. First time namin mag-meet to shoot. And it worked well. So parang, mostly, we're all so blessed na social media is a thing now. Now we could just talk to people there, so collaborating with people you see on Instagram. Sometimes if you just message them, usually they're just ginaman to do it. So that's the best way to go online for collaborations. Next please. So how a day goes for me. So I'm not like one kind of photographer, and since I'm a freelancer, walang routine. Hindi pa rin parehas yung araw ko. So it depends on what my workload is for the day. Usually when I wake up in the morning, well not super early in the morning because, you know, like around whatever before lunch. Tapos, depende diba kung may trabaho. Tapos usually mornings, kasi gano'n naman freelance eh. You have to be strong. Parang 1 week wala akong trabaho, tapos the next 2 months, bugbog sarado ka naman, gano'n. So, gano'n talaga. So, how a day goes for me? In the morning, I usually read my emails. Kasi parang, before ako sumagot, kailangan ko mga pag-isipan for the whole day. So, babasahin ko lang sa umaga, tapos sa gabi, saka ako mag-reply, sorry. Parang, mag-reply ako sa gabi, but like, there's this app na parang you get to send it the next day, so, cool. Anyway, so yun, that's general. So next, where na ako? Ayan. As a music photographer, do you know there are these kind of things na parang you need a day to prepare yourself for? Ganun sa akin yung music photography, especially when we do festivals, for example, Wonderland. Like that's 1 whole day. Like, for example, if I have to shoot it, yung gates nag-open ng 12, pero dapat 10 AM nandun na kami, di ba? So it's then, what time does the concert end? Like 3 AM, 2 AM? That's like more than 12 hours of working. So parang I need that 1 day to prepare myself, like emotionally, mentally, physically, blah, 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 buy all the stuff I need, buy coffee, and everything. So yun. Then usually, I always arrive at my shoots like 30 minutes earlier, because I need to like, well, yun na yung pinakamahaba. Because I need to prepare myself before the shoot. Like, I need alone time, like meditating, and everything. So after nun, when you go there, you just look for the person in charge, ask them what they want, ask them what they want from you. Sorry, anyway. Anyway, so yun. That's how the music, for music, usually they even ask you to edit on the same day, pag if it's a festival. And then you ask what you're assigned to and everything, typical stuff, then you shoot it. I don't really know what happens when I'm shooting because I'm concentrating on shooting. But after that, usually the bad part is, for example, when we're done shooting at 2 AM, they ask for the pictures right away. Like, okay, gusto namin, bukas na umaga may post na kami, walang hiyak, so parang get, so yun, just give them what they want, then you'll be done with it anyway. Because it's always a great experience to be shooting naman. So next please. As a portrait photographer, this is way less hassle than shooting for a festival. For example, I only shoot portraits for like 5 to 15 minutes, which is super short. When I shoot, for example, in kay Cole Sprouse, that's a super short lang. Like after his press conference, we went to one hotel room and then we had an interview for like 15 minutes. Tapos yung time namin kay Cole, parang 20 minutes, parang 5 minutes na lang sa akin. Parang sabi ko, teka lang 5 minutes lang. So usually, you don't even have the opportunity to bring your own lights and everything. It's mostly, you have to work with what you have. Like if I was we are interviewing someone here, tapos kailangan dito rin important. So syempre, kailangan ko na hanapin yung the lighting, the background, and everything. So, parang work with what you have. So next, please. As a fashion photographer. Iba naman dito, because we shoot per layouts, bale per look. So, the latest that I've done is for Univer. It's actually a luxury brand here. They bring in brands like Off-White, Vetements, Celine, blah, blah. And so, medyo, yun. And then, one day, we had to shoot like 17 layouts, and that's super dami. It means like 17 the look, 17 the different kinds of backgrounds, so we did that for the whole day. So, that's different from doing portraits na subject lang. Ito, parang you have to sorry. For portrait, it's mostly the person, di ba, na you're shooting. But for fashion, your focus is not only on the person, but it's with the clothes. So parang the goal is to, parang hindi mo siya mapansin yung model, like yung focus mo nasa clothes. Ayan. Go. And events photographer. This is where the money comes in. Events. Wala tayong pera sa iba. Dito tayo pumapasok. Kaya ako, as I need to pay bills. Anyway, for events, it's usually at night. So like, for example, when I'm shooting an event for bench, then I have to be there at like, what time? Like 6, 7. Tapos parang the day I have time to do portraits, diba? So parang it's scheduled in your day, but I get to do 2 portraits a day, and then sa gabi, we do events. And for events, usually they let you drink at work. And, pero yung pangat dyan, they ask for the photos right away. Kung wala naman sinushoot ka, ay, pwede na namin kunin yan. Kasi naman sa phone. Hirap naman. Okay, go. But usually that's what happens. So ito, how to survive the creatives world. Sana naturo sa akin ito nung siya dati pa ako kasi hindi ko alam. Kapakaba lang lahat. So anyway, how to survive the freelance or creatives world. I'm a photographer, so I have to know the people who are in my industry. Like I need to know my colleagues. I need to know like the editors of magazines. I need to know like the PR people. I need to know all these people na would get na bibigay sa akin ng racket, di ba? So ayun. Next, please. Okay, so invest in yourself, relationships, and equipment. Next, please. Yourself, know your creative identity. What's your style? What are your strengths and your limitations, your capabilities? Next, please. And then, what's your why? Like, what makes you shoot? What makes you wake up in the morning? What makes you do what you do? Next, have creative confidence. Like, a key part of doing photography is sharing your work. And if you don't have creative confidence, then, you know, mahihiya ka mag-share ng work mo, tapos hindi mo na magagawa yung goals ng photos mo. Kasi usually, di ba, yung goal ng photography is to tell stories, to share these stories. And if you're not confident enough, then kailangan mo share yung stories mo. So next, please. And for people, a good relationship is better than perfect content always. But a lot of people would rather get someone who gets the job done than someone who has perfect content but they go to the shoot late, they submit their stuff late. So good, kailangan lagi maganda yung work ethic mo. Next, please. Tend to your network. Parang if you have people that you know around you and then they could give you work, then that parang you need to like keep that relationship, tend to it, because like if this relationship works, then may constant racket ka na. That's what happened to most of my clients. Like, at first, I was a shy intern, ganyan. But then afterwards, parang yung mga people na to, parang they're just like your friend. So parang, pag if your friend mo sila, parang they'll remember you pag kailangan nila ng people to do work. Next, please. And collaborate, like what we said a while ago. Go online, message that person that you want to shoot with. If it's a model, a photographer, a stylist, go. G naman sila eh. Okay, next please. And gear, invest in your gear. Although gear might not be everything, it does matter. What's important is that you know how to use your stuff and you trust it. You know its limit, you know its strength and its capabilities. Next please. Online space, that's still your equipment, like your website, your Twitter, your Instagram, that's all investment kasi doon mo rin lalabas yung trabaho mo, yung outwork mo, yung work mo. And next please. Post-processing also is an investment. Like all the apps on your phone, investment na yun, yung Lightroom mo, yung Photoshop mo, and part of your equipment. Okay, next please. Stay safe. Very important as a freelance because you don't have a routine. You don't have someone who's gonna help you through it all because you're your own creative, your own admin, you manage yourself, you do your own taxes, you do your own budgeting. So parang as a freelancer, you have to know how to do all of them yourself. So know when to rest and when to fight. Parang ano yung mga shoots na mag-yes ka, yung mga shoots na mag-no ka. Next please. Learn to consider work as work. Parang I remember people telling me na if I love what I do, then it's never gonna be a day na parang I feel like working. That's so wrong. Kasi parang every time I'm shooting, it still does feel like work. Parang what you forget lang is, parang, I know, like it was my dream to become a photographer. But then, when I grew up and it became a reality, I forgot na being a photographer pala was my dream. So I forgot that it was like living my dream, but sometimes I do complain. Like, that's feel like work. So you need to know what shoots you like, and you should know what shoots na you can put out your heart and soul in, and yung mga shoots na parang, pang bills lang to. Parang ganun. Para hindi ka ma-burn out. Ayan, next please. Get that shot na you want to take. Especially with portraits, kasi parang minsan nahihiya ka sa model or sa photographer na parang, ang tagal ko na mag-shoot, ganyan. Baka hassle na for them. Parang, don't give up. Like, get that shot na you want to take. Kahit matagalan ka, mag-sorry ka na lang kung matagalan ka. Basta get that shot na you want to take. Because usually, parang, minsan, when you start editing, hindi ka satisfied sa ginagawa mo. So next. Then work ethic, show up, very important. I know a lot of photographers who don't show up sa shoots nila, and that's a big no-no. Parang I went to a shoot before for Rogue. Tapos it was like 3 p.m. Tapos tumawag sa akin editor, he was like, can you please come now? Kasi hindi nagpakita yung photographer namin. Like, nandun na sila sa interview and everything, tapos hindi sumipot yung photographer. So guys, please show up kasi hassle for everyone. Next please. Avoid being late. I know na ang hirap since traffic and everything, but please avoid being late. Like, be there 10 minutes before call time if possible. Next please. Work ethic over talent every day. This is what I keep on telling you guys. Kanina pa. Perfect relationship, perfect work ethic. Yeah. Someone who gets the job done rather than someone who's super talented but has shitty behavior. And next please. Share your work ideas and stories because all those pictures na you take, hindi sa'yo yan. Hindi sa'yo yung kwento na yan. Something for you to share. Next please. Create opportunities for yourself. Parang, you can't just stay at home and wait for people to contact you, no. You have to ask for it. Wonderland, hiningi ko yan. Parang, I message them on Instagram. Hi, could I message them? Could I shoot for Wonderland? They were like, yes. So yun, I did an opportunity for myself. I did that then for Cold Sprouts. I messaged someone from Bench and I was like, can I shoot for Cold? They were like, no. I was like, okay. And then I had to ask someone else. I asked Young Style, like, hi, can I shoot for Cold? And they were like, okay. And I was like, yes! But I wouldn't have gotten that if I didn't ask for it. And next, please. Tell the stories you want to tell. For example, may shoot ka, nandiyan lang sa'yo, tapos hindi mo gusto, you will have the right to say no. So, yeah, if you want to say yes, then yes. No, no. Huwag ka nilang pilitin. Next, please, yes. Let yourself make mistakes, then move on. Yeah. Especially right after college, me fresh out of college pa lang ako, siguro 2 years pa lang. And like around the months after college, yun yung pinaka-hirap na time for me, like being a full-time freelancer. Ang hirap eh. Parang no one's gonna guide you through it all. It's something that you have to figure out on your own. So when you make mistakes, sabi parang sige, next time, hindi na ganito yung gagawin ko. So don't dwell on your mistakes, just move on. Yeah. Next please, let everything inspire you. Yeah. Especially when you're doing projects, because like, you have to work what you have with what you have. So yeah, your environment is gonna inspire you and everything. Yeah. Next please. Last na to. Never stop shooting and creating because you'll get stagnant. Every time now you're gonna start shooting again, mangangapa ka ulit, yung work mo magiging rocky again. So I suggest never stop shooting and creating, even if it's shitty work, even if it's not that nice. As long as you keep on creating and shooting, para lang exercise yung mind mo, it's great. So ayun, that's all. Thank you.
Alright, thank you. So again guys, if you have questions, please jot them down later. Let's move on. So as a graphic designer of and a half, Tim Lopez creates stunning visuals to communicate a brand's unique story. His illustrations have been published in big magazines such as Rogue, La Fusiel, Adobo Magazine, and CNN Live. He also owns a clothing brand called Tomorrow. To talk about graphic design and illustration, here is Tim Lopez. Let's give him a round of applause.
Hi guys, I'm Kim. I run a clothing label. I work at NAF Branding Design Studio. And And I also clearly watch anime, so does anyone know who this guy is? Alright, what's his name? Can anyone tell me his name? How about you, white shirt? That's his name, but can anyone tell me his story? Oh. Yeah. He is currently in a special stage mode where he has like stronger powers and stuff. So can anyone tell me his whole story in like a minute or 5 minutes? Probably can't. Because Naruto has 670 plus episodes, not including the 11-ish movies. That's about 13,000 minutes. And if you watch the whole thing without sleep, without eating, without any breaks, you will reach about 9.3 days. That's 9.3 days of like just watching anime. What does this have to do with anything? It takes you this long to understand who Naruto is. You can't really miss out on anything from his childhood, when he becomes a pro ninja eventually. They're all important details of his life, and there's not all the details there can't really be condensed into a few minutes or a few moments. Contrary to that, you have these documents. On the left, you have, it's the same reason why the guy on the left has these spaces. And so that you fill in your the letters of your name or information in spaces because it has to be fast. The person who reads these has to understand this fast and efficiently. In the same way, the guy on the right, you have to fill in the holes properly. You have to vote properly because if you don't, the machine's gonna have a hard time understanding the vote, and then it's gonna mess up the whole election because you didn't shape the circle properly. So what does this have to do with visual design? Visual design is a performance that lasts within periods of time. So not just design as something, it's an invitation really for you to think of design less of an art, more of a performance in a way, because when you see art, when you see design, there's always an aspect of time when you're there, when you digest it, when you take in the art or anything visual, there's always a period of time in which you interact with it. So how do you design visually in the context of a performance? So the first thing is understanding what the message is. So you have to understand what its intentions are, its goals, its dreams, and that's your responsibility as a designer. What I mean by that is minsan yung briefs on clients, they could be very vague or they could be hard to understand, but that's also your challenge as a designer to pull it out of them. Because you have to be in a common agreement with the client or the person with what you're making before you actually start making before you actually start making it, because that prevents also a lot of back and forth between you guys, especially if you could email it just so it's on paper that this is what you said, this is what I said, this is what we agreed on. It's better if you have this common ground between each other, because visual design or anything really has different intentions. For instance, this thing which we see a lot in provincial highways, So this is an example which you can see mostly in provincial highways and roads. You understand this quickly, like in a few seconds you get that you're supposed to pass by these lines and you're supposed to turn left. You do that, you understand that within a few seconds, don't even think about it. Because that's what it wants to do. Yung pangarap niya, intindihin mo na kumaliwa ka, sumunod ka sa daan na to. That's it. That's how fast it is, you understand this. Contrary to that, or contrary, like on the other hand, you have this. This cough syrup. Cough syrup has all this information, but in comparison to the one on the left, one previous slide a while ago, the cough syrup wants to be understood by you, because you have to understand all these dosage recommendations, allergy issues. You have to understand this. This isn't something this isn't something you breeze through, just like the signs a while ago. Because there's so much information that you have to understand. That's also why the content is laid out this way. Because it looks important. You have to go through each sentence because you never know if you miss out on a thing. It could actually be fatal if you don't consider it. Branding is another aspect of this because like a logo has has so much to unpack for you. The swoosh of Nike, for instance, took years of reinforcement in our culture for it to be relevant to us today. Because really it's just a line, it's a check. But then what made it what it is today is years and years of because ultimately when you make a brand, you can't really make a brand exactly. Like your job as a brand identity designer is to bring the desired perception of the brand as close as possible to the audience's desired perception. Because you can't always nail that 100% accuracy with you and your audience. There's always that little small percentage that you won't get, but then it's your job to bring it there as close as possible. Next is related to that, who is watching the performance and why? So know who you're talking to and make sure you both get each other and understand what they're doing there in the first place. So an example here of different target markets with the same concept is Japanese food. So on the left you have Tokyo. Clearly it's Japanese, it says Tokyo on it. It serves Japanese food obviously, and that's it. You understand it without thinking a lot in comparison to the one on the right. If you've been to this is in Makati. If you want to eat like after this talk perhaps, it's really good there. It's Nihon Bashite. In comparison to the two, in comparison to Tokyo, you know it's Japanese, but you don't know what it is, you just understand it's Japanese. You see this in their menus even. I'm not sure if you can read, but then, well, Tokyo obviously has katsudon, it has teriyaki, udon, you understand that. It's easy. Meanwhile, Nihon actually begs more, it asks more from you because it wants you to understand it. It's more of an experience and an adventure and an invitation for you to get a better grasp of Japanese culture, because I don't know what a bunch of these characters are, but then if you're there, it's more of a sit-down thing that takes a while versus I want Japanese food, I want katsudon, I go to Tokyo, I'm done. This one on the right wants to push more value for the culture of Japan versus convenience. Not saying that either is a bad brand, but then I think they're communicating both the messages effectively because they target very different audiences, but then they do it very well. And the third point for this is, what are your given circumstances? So think of the touch points where your brand or your illustration, maybe it's a magazine or a newspaper, think about where the stage is, where the performance will take place, and what do you have, what are your limits exactly. Supreme is a brand, well, it's notorious in streetwear, or just being a logo. And what's cool about Supreme is how it just is a logo. It's just red, it's Supreme, yun lang siya. But then when you stick it on anything, it becomes Supreme. Suddenly, everything has or bears the mythology, the mythos of Supreme, whatever that is. I'm not really sure either, but then they can get away with making a brick. They've actually sold bricks at the store and people buy it for some reason because it's Supreme. They know the touch notes very well. Another example is with the 2012 London Olympics. Their logo, actually you should have shown that, but then as you can see on the left, it's an abstract shape of 2012, but then it got a lot of flack because it's very weird, it's very strange. Some said it like Bart Simpson and Lisa were doing it because they edited a bunch of these things, but then it looks really weird. But where this logo shines is in its whole identity, because a brand isn't just a logo, it's a system. It's a network of visuals and systems that go well into each other. As you can see, the logo translated not just from the logo, but then it was applied using different shapes as inspiration, the angles, into everything. That's why I kind of like this, because of the application. Not just the logo was cool, but then where it really stood out was when the logo was used in everything. It's a system, not just a mark. Because logo is just like, if you think of it as a person, the logo is just the face of the person, but that's not really the whole person. The whole person is still somewhere deeper, which again, the person wants you to understand him or her. In the same way, a brand isn't just a mark that you see. And this other example is pretty fun because if you pass by Shaw, sa may Escriva Drive, you probably would have seen this logo. It is the Barangay San Antonio Pasig City, Barangay San Antonio seal. It's in the intersection of Pioneer, I think, and Shaw. And as you can see, it's a logo. It's a shield with a house, a building, trees, the map of, that's actually the map of San Antonio Village. And it's applied like that. It's just that thing there. It's not very visible. It's actually not a very effective logo, but that's what you have to work with. That's another point I want to bring out with limitations. What if you're actually asked to do this by the client, but then what if they said you have to put the map? What if you have to have the building? This is a thing I learned from improvisational acting. It's the principle of yes and. So it's yes and because you don't say no. When you say no, you end the scene. Basically, walang comedy, walang scene, walang play, walang act, walang performance if you decline. But there's always that question if you agree to it, but then you don't agree to it fully. You build on it. It's not yes but, it's yes and. So it's yes and this is a map, but then it could also make it this thing. So it's not just declining. Well, at some point, I guess, after a bunch of trial and error considerations, maybe you have the right to decline, but then ideally it's a challenge for you. That's why you're a graphic designer. You're a designer because you have to solve solutions. It's your responsibility to do these things. Even if mahirap siya, even if ensure niya, that's your challenge. That's your job to make it work somehow. Because you're not going to get clients. You're not going to get easy clients all the time. Yeah, you're not going to get easy clients all the time, or clients that will let you do whatever you want or have all the liberties. That's also the fun part in finding a solution for this person with this kind of logo. And for the last point is how can you say the message? So it's most likely the story and the message aren't something new, but the task for you now is how can you tell it differently. So well, not obviously, but then a bunch of things we see now that are being rehashed, like for instance music these days are slowly going back to funk, which was done around like the 70s or 80s, I think. Oh, thank you. And yeah, so the story, oh wow, story is the message. There are something new, but then it's more of how can you tell it differently, because it's not just, if you're a musician, it's not just making cover. Well, it is actually, it is. How can you twist the song, make it something new instead of just repeating the same chords or the same instrumentals? If it's a logo, how can you change? If you're going to make, for instance, a logo using a check mark, how can you dissociate it from Nike, knowing that they have the same swoosh? How can your brand own that, knowing that you have this upon you? So, an example for this is fonts. As you can see, these are a bunch of serif fonts. So, we use all these fonts at some point in our lives, but then we don't really stop making fonts. If you go to different font websites like Typewolf or different type foundries, they're still making fonts because we haven't run out of fonts and ideas for them. Whether serifs, sans serifs, because we just keep, again, it's what we do as designers, just keep creating and thinking of new ways to figure things out. Another example for this is memes. Memes, if you're not familiar with this one, it's a guy who lays hands up and says, is this a pigeon? Obviously it's not. That's the point of the meme. Yung say as a meme because you can play it around different ways, like, Mama, kahit anong sayo, is this kind of computer? Me, refreshing Twitter every 2 minutes for an hour. Is this where you want to book? Galing yan, because people made thousands of these. It just shows the creativity of humanity. Ilang beses pa yan. Other people like mix memes, even like kakalos meme at some point. You've seen those. Another one is Taco Bell. So when you think of Mexican restaurants, actually fast food in general, you think of red, yellow, orange, appetizing colors, but then why would Taco Bell go purple? Because it's interesting that you understand fast food Mexican as Taco Bell, but it's not actually the usual image of Mexican food or fast food. But they've owned this color, it's them. I can't, well, maybe they will if they rebrand at some point. I can't picture them in any other color, but then they own this. Another example, it's not really a visual one per se, but then later I'll get to the visual part, So if you like to look at lyrics of hip hop back in around let's say 2010, 2011, you probably would have encountered this website. It's called Rap Genius. So it's a cool website that you can go through the lyrics, but you can also go into the meaning of these different lyrics. So for actually listen to Death by Kizzy's Cypher ad. But what they did here was similar to the example I showed earlier with the signs. They made it something that's not just, they made it in a way that it's not just a fast-paced, fast turnover kind of interaction. And they saw an opportunity in making it something more immersive. So now they're known as Genius. If you've seen this, you probably, well, if you look at lyrics, you probably go to this site now. Because what's cool about this is that they've actually just completely owned that realm of lyrics. Like nobody's done that. I mean, AZ Lyrics, Let'sSingIt.com. They didn't think of doing this, but then Genius just found a genius opportunity into making it something that's very ownable. So it's a community now of lyrics. It's also, again, with a meaning, so different people can join in the discussion on what these lyrics mean, and even the artists themselves can verify these lyrics. And they can join in, like Vince Staples can verify his own lyrics website, and that gives it a certain authority and authenticity that you're actually talking to this person. When you throw ideas, like there's a fan there who said like, oh, I love you, Vince Staples, or what did he say? Vince, you're the GOAT of the, he's greatest of all time. And as you can see, they even branched out beyond rap. They're genius. They can tackle I'm not actually sure what genre Sabrina Carpenter and King Princess are, but they're not. I think they're not hip hop now, but then they can transcend beyond that now because they realize the potential of not just rap, but then what about rock, indie, all these other genres that they can capitalize. So, to conclude, I'm going back to Naruto. So, it's about the fourth message, but backwards in a way. It's not about what you can do to the message, more what you can do to the medium. So, again, to the fans of Naruto, this guy on the left, well, Naruto's the one on the bottom right. The one on the left with the blue aura, he is Neji. He is a ninja from the Hyuga clan. What is interesting about them is they have these special eyes. It lets you see your energy, your chakra, and all around you. They have really good vision. And when they die, or when they're born, they have a seal on their forehead so that when they die, their enemies can't take their eyes and use it for themselves. So what does this have to do with anything? The seal is actually pretty controversial because it is the seal of, well, it's a symbol in Buddhism of auspiciousness and good luck. But as we know, this is also a symbol of this. I don't have to say anything, but when you just see this, you understand all the history lessons, all the videos of genocide, racism, in one single image. They've owned the image of what used to be a peaceful Buddhist temple and turned it and weaponized it into what you see today. It could trigger traumatic memories, bad experiences. I don't even have to say anything. That's the power that visual design or an image actually can bring to people. In a more recent case, you've seen Pepe the Frog at many points. Actually, Pepe the Frog has been used by the alt-right in America as a hate symbol for the neo-Nazis. He's joined the ranks of the swastika and the Confederate flag as hate symbols in America. You can see they've used Pepe the Frog in many different ways to show hate. And it's interesting because you use it as humor, you just throw out this funny back then, but then now they twisted it and meant it this way. And now it's really hard to understand it because what have they done to my little frog meme? He's now a Trump supporter, he's all these things now. It's interesting. In a more local context, this thing, I just do this action now. And